Hello friends, I welcome all of you on my YouTube channel, that is on medical biochemistry. So today we learn about different detection or testing method for the most recent topic, that is of coronavirus. Okay, so how it is tested. So scientific name for the coronavirus, that is SARS-CoV-2, that is severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2, and the disease which is produced by SARS-CoV-2, that is known as COVID-19, right? So this name is given by the WHO, COVID, that is coronavirus disease 19. So before we start our topic, we have a highlight about coronavirus. So coronavirus is one of the virus which can produce clinical condition which may be harmless or which may be most fatal. Okay, till now total 7 strains of the coronavirus have been identified. Out of these 7, 4 are likely to produce very mild symptoms, that is of like common cold, okay, that we face in routine days, and 3 strains which have been identified are producing fatal symptoms, and mostly they are related to the respiratory system. Okay, so it fails the respiratory system, so it is known as severe acute respiratory syndrome. The 4 strain which are producing mild symptoms, they are OC43, HKU1, 229E and NL63. These names are given as per their genome, and this is the species of coronaviruses. So beta coronavirus species and alpha coronavirus species are common species which affect the humans. So apart from these 4, till now other 3 human coronavirus strains have been identified which are likely to produce very fatal symptoms of respiratory system. Okay, so first was identified in 2003, which has produced SARS-CoV-1, and it is of beta coronavirus species. Then again in 2012 the second outbreak was developed in the Middle East countries, named as Middle East Respiratory Syndrome coronavirus, and today the whole world is facing, which is started in 2019, and that virus is again known as severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2, SARS-CoV-2, because they are just structural, the virus is structurally similar to the structure of coronavirus which was identified in 2003. So these both are structurally similar, that's why they are known as SARS-CoV, and this is named as SARS-CoV-2 because it is a second outbreak. So whenever new virus have been identified, the most challenging thing is which method must be used for the detection of the viruses, and who should be tested in this outbreak. So to understand this in better way, we must know how the disease is progressing with the days. So once the patient is infected with the coronavirus, we are just talking about SARS-CoV-2. So once patient is infected with the SARS-CoV-2 virus, the first phase, that is known as the asymptomatic phase, which is also known as the window period. So window period is the period in which the patient has no clinical symptom but still they are infected with the virus and they are capable to transmit the virus. Thereafter the symptoms will appear in the individual, and after that coronavirus antigen body will start to make antibodies. First there is the formation of acute antibodies, that is IgM, which will almost start from the 7th day of the infection, which will gradually subsides and almost disappear by the 21st day of the infection. from 14 days onwards approximately, body will start to produce the chronic immunity, that is by the production of IgG, which will remain in the body for the very longer time, which will provide the immunity to the individual. So who should be tested for that? In this big outbreak, the ICMR has produced some testing guideline. So they have enumerated all the asymptomatic individuals who have undertaken international travel in last 14 days. They all must stay in the home quarantine for 14 days. So for 14 days they cannot come out of their home. Okay, so this is the first and foremost thing for all the international travelers. And during that period, if they become symptomatic, just like if they get any fever, they get any common cold, cough, difficulty in breathing, they must be tested with the corona testing procedures. Then all symptomatic contacts, when we talk about symptomatic, that means the individual has a history of fever, cough and difficulty in breathing. So all the symptomatic contacts of laboratory confirmed cases. Okay, so just for example, any individual of one family become positive, then all their close contact should be tested. Okay, if they become symptomatic, all symptomatic healthcare workers should be tested because they are the frontline warriors which commonly come across the positive cases. All hospitalized patient which has a history of respiratory illness, again if they become symptomatic, they must be tested. Asymptomatic patient which is in the close contact of confirmed case should be tested once between day 5 and day 14 of coming in his or her contact. So just for example, if I come in a contact with the positive case, I must be tested once between day 5 to day 14 of my contact. Healthcare workers who examined a confirmed case without adequate PPE as per the WHO guideline, they must be checked for the coronavirus. Just recently ICMR has added this part, how the test must be conducted in the hotspot or cluster areas. So in that they asked all the symptomatic patient with the history of ILI, that is influenza like illness, history of fever or history of cough, history of sore throat or runny nose, and these symptoms are within 7 days, then they must be tested by the RT-PCR method that we will see in the later part of the presentation. And if the symptoms appears after 7 days of the illness, then they must be tested by the antibody testing. Okay, and again if they are negative in the antibody testing, they must be confirmed by RT-PCR because the antibody testing is not a confirmatory test. So this is the guideline of ICMR who should be tested for the coronavirus. So coming to our topic, that is different methods for the detection of coronavirus. So recently there are mainly two methods. One is nucleic acid amplification test. In common terminology it is known as real-time RT-PCR, and second, that is known as rapid testing, which is known as rapid antibody testing, which detects the IgM and IgG, and this technique is useful for the detection of the coronavirus antigen. So this is the antigen detection technique, whereas this one is the antibody detection technique. So starting with the first one, that is real time reverse transcriptase PCR, that is known as RRT-PCR. So what is RRT-PCR? So RRT-PCR is a molecular technique, is an in vitro diagnostic test which is useful for the detection and diagnosis of novel coronavirus 2019. It is based on the nucleic acid amplification technology, that is known as NAT, which is very reliable technology for the viral detection whenever new viruses have been identified. Every time the RT-PCR has been found very useful. It is the gold standard for detection of any viruses. When you talk about dengue, when you talk about chikungunya, when you talk about swine flu. So again, for the SARS-CoV-2, it is a gold standard for the detection of viruses because of its reliability, high sensitivity, high specificity, and it can rapidly detect the antigen. Which samples are required for that? First, that is most common, that is nasopharyngeal swab, and oropharyngeal swab, that is a swab from the oral cavity, that is the posterior oropharynx, and from the nasopharynx. Sometimes it may be tested from sputum, or it may be tested from the bronchoalveolar lavage, that is bile fluid, which is taken from the bronchi. Now we see how does RRT-PCR work, or what is the principle of RRT-PCR. So whenever new virus have been identified, the first and foremost thing for all researchers, that is to identify the genome of that particular virus. Okay, what is the gene sequence of that particular virus? Once it has been identified, the research company will form the primers and the probes to the particular portion of that gene. So just for example, when we talk about the COVID, they will form the probes for the N gene, which is present within the genome of coronavirus, and also form the probe for the envelope gene, which is present within the genome of the virus. So the probe will bind the particular gene sequence of whole genome, and that will be used for the detection of the coronavirus antigen. So this is just a picture of the whole genome of coronavirus. Here you can see it is mainly divided into non-structural protein, this is in the blue color, and these are the structural protein. Okay, this is S protein, that is spike protein, this is envelope protein, this is membrane protein, and this is nucleocapsid protein. This is the genes for the structural protein. Okay, from these the different proteins are developed. So here you can see that this is spike protein, this is a structure of coronavirus. These are the different proteins which are formed from the structural gene. So this is a gene for spike protein. Okay, here you can see. Then this is the gene for the envelope protein, which will produce the envelope protein of the cell membrane. This is the gene for the membrane protein, and this is the gene for the nucleoprotein. Okay, so this is known as the structural protein gene, and these are the different proteins which are formed from the structural gene. I have just made a diagrammatic overview of whole genome. Okay, so this is a non-structural protein, and these are the gene for the envelope protein and the nucleocapsid protein, against which the kit has formed the probe. So I am not including the spike protein and membrane protein. I have just included the E gene and N gene, against which the kit has produced the probes. Okay, so what is the principle of RRT-PCR? So first step of the RRT-PCR, that is the reverse transcriptase. So what do you mean by reverse transcriptase? So as we all know, transcription, that is a synthesis of RNA from the DNA. Okay, so generally, traditionally what happens? RNA will be formed from the DNA, this coronavirus gene which is of RNA virus, right? So I am making the DNA from this RNA. So I am doing the reverse procedure, and that's why it is known as the reverse transcriptase. So that DNA is known as the cDNA, that is known as the complementary DNA. Okay, so first step of the RT-PCR, that is a RNA which is isolated and purified from the sample which we described, are reversely transcribed to form the cDNA. So this is a parent RNA from which cDNA is formed with the help of reverse transcriptase. The next step, that is the PCR of this newly formed cDNA. PCR, that is known as polymerase chain reaction. So cDNA is duplicated by the PCR cycles. PCR is consist of 3 steps. First is the denaturation, then annealing, that is the binding of the probe and primers, and then it is an extension for the synthesis of the new strand. So cDNA is first duplicated by the PCR cycle. Again this cycle will be repeated. I am just describing this cycle in details. This duplicated cDNA is again denatured, that is the first step of the PCR, and denaturation is carried out by the high temperature. Okay, that is almost at 95 degrees Celsius. Okay, so here you can see this is a cDNA. By first cycle it is duplicated, and again in second cycle it is denatured, so they are separated from each other. So this is the first step of the PCR cycle, that is known as the denaturation. In second step, there is the annealing. So in this process, probe, which are again specific gene of the DNA, cDNA, and the primer will anneal to the specific target sequence. And for the annealing, temperature must be lower down. So from the 95 degrees Celsius, the temperature will be lower down to the 55 degree. So again, this is the separated DNA by the denaturation, and the step of annealing will start. So there is a binding of primer, then there is a binding of probe. So in kit we have a probe for 2 genes. One probe, that is again E gene, and one probe, that is again N gene. Okay, and they are conjugated with the reporter dye as well as the quencher dye. Okay, so these are the fluorescent dye which will be illuminated once they will be separated from the quencher dye. Okay, so all the probes are conjugated with the fluorescent dye. Okay, so that is the phase of annealing, that is the binding of primer and the probe. Then third stage, that is the extension phase. So in our body, the extension will be carried out by the DNA polymerase or the RNA polymerase. When we talk about the in vitro testing, that work will be carried out by the Taq polymerase, which is thermoresistant, and that elongate the newly synthesized strain with the help of dNTPs, which is present in the master mix. And again for that, the temperature, appropriate temperature would be 72 degrees Celsius. And apart from synthesis or elongation of the new strand, Taq polymerase has a 5' nuclease activity which degrades the probe. Okay, so at the end of this phase, 2 cDNAs will be converted to 4 DNAs. So when Taq polymerase releases the probe from their gene, the reporter dye will be separated from the quencher dye, and now reporter dye will be able to produce fluorescent signal. So just revising this portion, so this is a one strand of the cDNA, this is second strand, this is annealing of primer and probe with the fluorescent dye, and the next is that is extension by the Taq polymerase. So they will synthesize the new strand and with the help of 5' exonuclease activity, they will release this reporter dye and the quencher dye. So here you can see there will be the release of reporting dye and the quencher dye, this reporter dye will emit the fluorescent light as they are separated from the quencher dye, and there is a formation of 4 strands of the DNA. Okay, so this is how the number of copies of DNA will be multiplied. So just for example, if my specimen contain at least 1 molecule of virus or 1 strand of RNA virus, it can be multiplied to the multiple copies. Okay, that is the advantage of polymerase chain reaction. So with each cycle, additional reporter dye will be separated from the probe, which will increase the fluorescent intensity and which will be monitored in the software. Okay, so with the release of dye by the completion of each cycle, there will be increase in the intensity of the fluorescent signal. Okay, and by that way the CT value will be calculated, and by that way they will convert this value into the quantitative assessment by the mathematical program. Okay, so we are not going in detail for that. So this is how the copies will be increased and more fluorescent dye will be released. Okay, so what is the procedure? So first sample to be collected, then extraction of RNA from the sample. At the same time you prepare the master mix, which contain reverse transcriptase to form the cDNA, and also contain Taq polymerase, dNTPs, primers and different probes. Mix the master mix with the extracted RNA from the sample. So first step, that will be the formation of cDNA, and after that from cDNA multiple copies of the DNA will be formed with the help of Taq polymerase, which will illuminate the fluorescent dye and which will be measured in the software. Okay, so that is the procedure. What is the advantage of RT-PCR? Because it is a gold standard, it is the most common diagnostic test to detect any type of virus, and especially for the coronavirus it is a most specific and highly specific test, so it is the most reliable. It can detect antigen from very first day of the infection, even in the incubation period. If patient has no symptom, they can be identified with the infection of coronaviruses, because we all know in news we hear that 60 to 70% of the patients are found asymptomatic when they are screened. It also shows the viral load because it can be quantitated, so it is very useful for the therapeutic monitoring. And these all methods are done in the laboratory with the biosafety level 3. So there is a very less chances of contamination of a cross infection. Again, most of the laboratory are using the closed system instrument, so there is a very less chances for the contamination or spreading of infection to the health worker. What is the limitation of that? For this, very skilled staff is required, because we have to use a very unique machine of RT-PCR. It is somewhat time consuming in comparison to rapid test. It takes around 3 to 4 hours. Cost per test is very high compared to other testing method, because it requires a skilled staff, it requires a new instrument, and it also required lab facilities, which is of biosafety level 3. It can only perform in upper and lower respiratory specimens, and again negative result do not preclude the coronavirus infection, because it is directed against particular gene, that is we have seen, that is against gene N and gene E. If the sequence of that gene will be changed in viruses, then the patient cannot be identified with the infection. There is high chances of false negative result if specimen is improperly collected, improperly transported or handled, because viruses are very delicate in the temperature. False negative result may also occur if amplification inhibitors are present in the specimen, or if inadequate number of organisms are present in the specimen. If very less amount of organism is present, they cannot be amplified. So again false negative result may occur. And if the virus mutates their target region, just for example we are using the RT-PCR kit for the N gene and E gene, and that sequence is changed, this kit may not detect the viruses. Okay, so that was all about the most commonly used method, that is RT-PCR. Next method, that is rapid antibody screening. As the name suggests, it is a screening method only. So this method qualitatively detects the novel coronavirus antibodies. Okay, they are not detecting the antigen. In our RT-PCR we are detecting the antigen. In this we are detecting antibodies from the human whole blood or the serum or plasma. So again we are just going to this phase of infection development. So in the first phase the patient may be asymptomatic or may be symptomatic, but the production of IgM will be start almost after 7 days of the infection. So this test is only useful once there is a production of antibodies. So in this phase this test cannot detect any infection or any individual with the infection. Okay, so sample required, blood sample which can be taken by simple finger prick method, or the serum sample which is collected in the vacuum. So principle of this rapid testing, which is based on immunochromatography. Whenever we hear the word immuno, that means antigen antibody reaction. So it is based on the principle of immunochromatography, which is made up of nitrocellulose membrane. So each cassette of this rapid testing is a dry medium which is coated separately with the different molecules. Okay, so first, that is a sample conjugate plate or PAD, where we add the sample to be assessed. So which is made up of colloidal gold labeled recombinant novel coronavirus antigen. So we are adding the blood or the plasma or serum of the patient which contains antibody, and in this conjugated PAD we have provided antigen of coronavirus, that is mostly the N protein. Okay, that is nucleocapsid protein. So when I add the sample, if it contains the antibody against coronavirus antigen, then it will form antigen antibody complex. Okay, so this is the first step, and gradually with the help of capillary action this antigen antibody complex will move further. There is a one M line which is fixed with the monoclonal anti-human IgM antibody. So if this complex contain IgM against coronavirus, will bind to the antibody which is present at a taste line of IgM and which will produce the color. If kit is detecting both IgG and IgM, so again there is a second line for the IgG which is again fixed with the monoclonal anti-human IgG antibody. Line M was fixed with the IgM, whereas line G is fixed with the antibody IgG, and when this sample come across this line and if it contains IgG, will bind to that particular antibody and it will produce the color. And lastly the control line which is fixed with the generalized anti-mouse antibody. So it will always give the positive color when our serum sample will be come across. Okay, so this is the principle of rapid testing. So what is the procedure? It's very simple. Just collect the blood by fingerprinting or pricking or serum or plasma. Add almost 10 microliter, that is 3 to 4 drops of the blood. Place 2 to 3 drops of the buffer for the better capillary action, and read the result after 10 minutes. So interpretation of result. So how you can define as a positive sample? If the both or any one of test line band is visible, whether it is of IgG or IgM, this is IgG, IgM or both, but if you want to stamp it as a positive, the control line must be colored. Okay, so then and then you can define as a positive test result. Negative, if the control line is colored but there is a no band at IgG or IgM test line, then you can define it as a negative test sample. And invalid, that is again a very important part. If there is a no band at the control line, then result are considered as a invalid. Whether the band is present on IgG or IgM or not, if you don't get the line on the control line, then the result is considered as invalid. So repeat testing is required. So that is how the antibody screening is interpreted. So what is the advantage of that? It is very rapid. It can take hardly about 10 to 15 minutes. It is very useful for the bulk testing. It is nowadays using in the cluster quarantine areas. It is useful for the screening and the detection of antibody status. It is not for the antigen. No skilled staff is required because the procedure is very simple. Sample collection is very easy to comply because you just need a drop of blood. And again, it's just repeating, useful for bulk testing. And no special instrument or biosafety level laboratory facility is required. So these are the advantages of rapid screening. What is the limitation? As we all know, it is not a diagnostic test. It just can be used as a screening test. It can only performed on the specimen of whole blood or plasma serum. It doesn't show anything about antigen status of the coronavirus. So it can't detect the patient who are in the incubation period or in the asymptomatic phase. So negative result doesn't rule out the infection. And positive result may be due to any past infection or the past immunity against non-SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus. So against other species or other strain of the coronavirus which has produced the antibodies may give the false positive result with the rapid antibody screening. Positive result should be confirmed by molecular testing. That is the ideal thing. If the amount of coronavirus antibodies is below detection limit of that particular kit, then it gives the false negative. So again, it can just use as a bulk testing screening test. Okay, it cannot be used as a diagnostic. So just summarizing, what is the difference between RRT-PCR and rapid antibody screening? So RRT-PCR is considered as a diagnostic test, whereas rapid antibody screening is a screening test. It detects the antigen, mainly antigen N and antigen E. It detects the antibody, that is IgM and IgG, against the coronavirus. It can detect the antigen from the first day of the infection, whether patient is symptomatic or asymptomatic. It can only detect the infection once the antibody production has been started. It requires a special instrument, and again it requires the laboratory facilities with the biosafety level 2 or 3. It does not require any special instrument or any laboratory facilities. It takes 3 to 4 hours to complete the test procedure. It takes hardly around 10 to 15 minutes, so it is a very rapid. The cost is very high. The test kit is costly. Along with that, it requires the instrument, it requires the laboratory facility. So that's why the per test cost is very high in RT-PCR. It is somewhat low. It is highly specific, highly sensitive, and it is the most reliable method for the detection of coronavirus, whereas rapid antibody screening is less specific, sensitive, and reliable than compared to the RT-PCR. So to conclude, RT-PCR is the most diagnostic test and which is most sensitive method for the detection of coronavirus. But at the same time, antibody screening will be very useful in case of bulky screening, as well as to know the status of immunity or antibody production of the individual. Okay, so this is all about the different detection technique for the detection of coronavirus. Thank you. All stay at home, stay safe and fight the corona. So kindly subscribe our YouTube channel, that is Pauline Gandhi, and for any query email us on powtalk@gmail.com.